Hey, lovers! Welcome to the Book Lovers Club, the podcast where we celebrate Black Sapphic love stories, one book at a time. I'm your host, Joy, a married lesbian, lifelong book lover, and relational communication scholar. Here, we don't just read the romance, we learn from it. I believe that love stories can do more than just entertain us. They can teach us how to love better, how to see ourselves more clearly, and how to create the love life of our dreams. Each week, I'll dive into sapphic stories written for us and by us, while weaving in personal insights and communication lessons you can take off the page. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's turn the page together. Welcome to the club. All right. Hey, y'all, and welcome to the very first episode of the Book Lovers Club. I've gone back and forth about whether or not to start a book podcast for a while now, but I'm somebody, if I can't find a community or space that I'm seeking, that means I just need to create it myself. So, with that, this first episode, I just want to explain the layout of the podcast and what you all can come to expect. But first, I want to talk about why I decided to start this podcast. So, some of you all may not know, but years ago, I started a podcast with my best friend called Let's Be Real Boo. And y'all, it was a big success, but life happened. We were living through a pandemic. So much happened over the years that what started off as a small break actually went into a permanent hiatus. Okay. But me and my girl, we still locked in real tight. I've gotten married over the years. She's now engaged. And, our OG fans still reach out and check on us. But I was really missing the space to kind of share my thoughts and share my voice, and made the decision to start a podcast on my own. But part of the reason why I wanted to do this is because I love sapphic books. Like, I'm addicted to them, okay? I read a sapphic book, like several each month, okay? They are definitely my comfort book. When I was coming out, I had such a messy coming out. That'll be another conversation for another day, okay? But my coming out journey was so messy. And I remember going on Tumblr and making friends that helped me navigate that messy ass coming out journey. And one of the girls that I had met and became internet friends with, she had recommended the Choices series by Sky. And she's like, I think you'll really like the series. And I just feel like you remind me of Carmen. And I don't know if anybody's ever read Choices. That series is so good. That's another series that I reread. It's one of my comfort books. But that series, reading that at that time, really helped me go through my journey with coming out. And helped me find community online. It was a stressful time in my life, and books helped me get through it. Books helped me get through it. And the internet family, the found family, the people that I turned to on Tumblr, and how they supported me through my coming out journey, and how we bonded over our love of books. I really want to create that space now, because there may be somebody else out there that's a late bloomer like I was, that realized, late into their 20s, early 30s, that they are gay as hell. And, reading these books and reading about the coming out journey of certain characters sometimes helps you realize that you might be a little gay too. My love of books is really what led me here. Also, I read a lot of books and can't always find characters and stories that I can relate to. And representation matters. There are a few book series that when I've read the books, I always walk away like, man, I just related to that so much. And I just feel like there's a community of people who always can find books with covers with illustrations that look like them. They're the same age as the characters, and can really see themselves in those stories. And I want to experience that too. So reading these type of books, Black Sapphic books, have allowed me to find my voice and to really be able to pull lessons from the stories and apply them to my life. So I really want to dedicate my platform to reading more sapphic books and promoting sapphic books, specifically this intersection of, race and gender identity, and amplifying Black queer authors, and centering stories with Black queer women, because I know how important this representation is and how much is needed. And if y'all are on Bookstagram or Book Talk, y'all know the books that are popular get all of the marketing, and people tend to make posts about the same books, and I don't often see the Black Sapphic books get the same type of recognition, the same publicity. So I'm gonna do my part and amplify my community and invite people in to read these books with me. Now, look, I'm not promising y'all that every book we choose each month is going to be a 5-star read. But what I will promise you is that we'll be able to pull some lessons and some real life application from the books that we're reading, because I don't believe that romance books are just for entertainment. Yes, I read these books for entertainment, but I have a master's degree in relational communication. In fact, both of my degrees, my bachelor's and my master's degree, are in communication, specifically how people communicate in different relational settings. I had originally thought I was going to go into marriage and family therapy, but then decided that I really would like to work with college students, which led me to the career that I have now in higher education. So for those of you who don't know, I am my new title, I just got promoted, y'all. It just went into effect. I just got promoted, but I'm now an associate director of student success. So I supervise a team that works with our incoming first year students, and I advise students, and I also teach part-time. So my entire career has been in academia working with college students, but I had set out to work with couples and do marriage and family therapy, and I have all this knowledge and passion for the work that I'm hoping that, my plan is to channel that into this podcast and into this work. So even though we're reading these books for entertainment, my goal is that when you listen to my episodes and when you leave me, you will leave with some real lessons from science and from the books that you can apply to enhance your love life, because I read some of these books and I get ideas. Especially from my boos that read a lot of spicy books, I hear all the time how people's relationships have improved because of those books, because people are able to explore fantasies, are able to explore things that they might not have had the courage to explore in their sex life until they read it on the page. And, just get ideas and inspiration from what they're reading that they can reenact with their partners. So we're going to talk about those things. Like, one of the tropes I loathe is the miscommunication trope. But I think that reading about how miscommunications can happen in these relationships in a fictional setting give us a safe space to think through how miscommunications can happen in our real relationships. And we can talk through, how could this couple in the book handled that situation differently? And then think about, if this were to happen in my relationship, how could I move differently in a way where I could still have a healthy relationship and strengthen my relationship with my partner at the end of this conflict? So we're going to really be pulling some lessons from these books. Because like I mentioned, love stories aren't just stories. They're a real reflection of romantic dynamics, the theories that surround relational communication, and real life lessons that we can learn. All right. So, like I said, I started this podcast because I wanted a space where we come together and not only celebrate sapphic love stories, but really learn from them. And stories about Black Sapphic women in particular are very powerful, necessary, and honestly, just fun as hell. Okay? So I'm really trying to carve out a space for us to find community with each other and amplify our lived experiences. I just love books so much and really want to create a platform where I can promote books that center stories like the ones that I'm living in real life. Because, if your life was a movie, what genre would your life be? Because I'm out here creating the romantic comedy of my dreams. And I love reading these books because, like I said, I'm really pulling lessons and inspiration from these stories. So how the podcast and the book club will work moving forward. Okay, so every Saturday, we're going to have Sapphic Saturdays. I love alliteration, okay? So I'm going to drop a new episode every Saturday, all right? And y'all can hold me to that. And each month, we're going to have a book club pick. So I already picked the book that we're going to be reading this month just to get us started. But I will do a poll on the page so you all can weigh in each month before I decide on what we're going to read. but we're going to have a book club pick a month. And then the first week of the month, I'll introduce the book, why it was chosen, why it matters. And then weeks 2 and 3 of the month, that's when we'll talk about different themes and tropes and different lessons that we can pull. I'm going to speak it into existence, but I want to be able to have the authors on my platform where we can do interviews and ask them about the inspiration behind their books and really talk to them to do a deeper dive around their writing process and just what happened in their life that influenced these books and these stories that they're sharing with us. So, like I said, I'm going to speak it into existence, but we're going to have some author spotlights in the future. And then that final week is when we will do a full book discussion. And like I said, I will try my best to facilitate the book discussion in a way where we don't have any spoilers. So we are going to have a group chat that you all will be able to join so that we can discuss the books. But you can also just come straight to the Instagram page, and there will be a post when it's the end of the month for us to debrief and discuss the book. And you can just comment and discuss the book right there on the Instagram page in the comments. So that's really how it's going to operate. So it's going to be a monthly journey where we'll have the book club pick. We'll introduce the book, then we'll discuss themes and stuff about the book. Hopefully have some authors on here to discuss. And then at the end of the month, we'll then come together and discuss it together. So that gives you all a full month, 3 Saturdays to read this book and join us for the fourth Saturday to have the group discussion. Okay, and if anything changes with that cadence and with that schedule, I will make sure to keep y'all up to date and tell y'all about what we're doing on this here podcast, okay? But I feel like right now we're in an era where people are feeling a lot of pressure to present perfection, okay? And I am guilty of it too. I am a perfectionist, which sometimes stifles my creative process. But, I'm in therapy and I'm learning to work through my perfectionist tendencies because I am an artist, true and true, through and through, true and true. No, but I am an artist and a creative. And, you can't be afraid to be seen trying. So I say progress, not perfection. One day, we'll be on our 100th episode. And I want you all to be able to come back and listen to this very first one and be able to hear my growth and see how I evolved along this journey. Because we all got to start somewhere. Okay. And it's not my intention to try to present perfection from the beginning. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to stumble. It's not going to be perfect from day one. However, the vibes are always going to be high. We always going to be having some good vibes up in here. And I promise it'll be a good time. So as long as you all, rocking and rolling with me, I promise it's going to be a good party down here in the club. All right. So the first book that I chose for this month is D'Vaughn and Kris Plan a Wedding. Y'all, I've already read this book, but I am going to be reading this book with my wife for the first time. And part of the reason why I chose this book already is because there's been a lot of conversation around marriage equality might be going away. I was already afraid that might happen, which is why I wanted us to get married sooner than later, because we were originally supposed to be getting married this October, but we ended up getting married on Valentine's Day this year. So I was just worried about that. And now it's been all this conversation about, marriage equality might be going away. And it just made me think about this book and how blessed I am that I was able to, find a woman that I love and adore and the love of my life. And I was blessed to get married when there were so many people before us that found love in a hopeless place. Okay, shout out to Rihanna, but found love in a hopeless place and were able to persevere when marriage wasn't legal. So that's what gives me hope, is that there were people who were able to find love and sustain love during the craziest times. And if they did it before, we could do it again. But I recognize the blessing that it's been and how grateful I am to be able to be married to my wife. And I want to read this book with her. Also, it's been a lot of conversation around Love Island and reality TV. And this book definitely has reality TV vibes and really taps into that. So I think it's a really good book to kind of kick off this podcast journey. And I'll be reading it with my wife, and she'll join us for an episode or two if I can get her on here for 2 episodes. But she'll join us for an episode and be reading this book. And throughout this month, we'll actually talk about our wedding journey and just how married life is. So, like I said, the weeks where, while we're working our way through the book, we will talk about other things like different tropes and different things that are coming from the book. I will try not to give you all any spoilers. So we'll just talk about other things while we're working our way through this book. The reason why I want us to read this book is that I feel like it showcases sapphic love and joy. It talks about coming out journeys, and it explores real relationship themes like communication, family acceptance, and just being true to yourself. So this book is on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle, you can read it on there. I am very much a Kindle girly. Me and my Kindle go together real bad. Okay, me and Miss Kindleisha, we go everywhere together, and I am unashamed. I will definitely take out my Kindle and start reading in the middle of a party if I'm feeling like it. Okay, so by all means, like, please, if you got a Kindle, read along, but go ahead and grab you a copy and join me for this book discussion. And then at the end of the month, we will all come together and just discuss all the messy, fun, and romantic details together. So to follow along and join the conversation, please follow the Instagram page for the podcast, which is the Book Lovers Club. And I will make sure that will be linked, but it's the Book Lovers Club, just like the name of this podcast, the exact same spelling. I am going to create a group chat so that we all can discuss that way as well. So what you can expect from this show moving forward, I'll share different communication theories from my studies and mix that with real life examples and application and themes from the book. I'll share some personal anecdotes about my own marriage and love life. And really, I'm creating a safe, celebratory community for Black Sapphic readers. So please diversify your bookshelves, y'all, and join us each month. And maybe you'll leave me with a new perspective, a new story to add to your TBR, or even a new way to approach your own relationships. Okay? So thank you again for joining me. Like I mentioned, this is just the beginning. We are focused on progress, not perfection. And please follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple, and also add the podcast on Instagram. Share this with your friends who love sapphic books, or any of the queer women in your life that might want to follow along and diversify their bookshelves and read some of these books with me. But thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of the Book Lovers Club. Don't forget to grab your copy of D'Vaughn and Kris Plan a Wedding so we can read along together this month. And follow me on Instagram for updates at the Book Lovers Club. And if you love this episode, share it with your friends and the queer people in your life. And until next time, I'm Joy. Happy reading, lovers.